developers themselves have had to make a commitment to complete their projects and deliver it in order that the buyers should have confidence in them. And those developers which actually delivered the projects have seen demand coming back to them in a very serious manner in the last 30 to 60 days. Is it sustainable? My answer is yes. I do believe that after these 2 or 3 years of negativism and a downslide in market, the demand for homes and houses has come back. May not be in the manner in which it was earlier, where people would get all the booking at the start of the project, but we will now get booking start of the project as well as during the project and also when the buildings are completed. So a much more larger amount of cash flow requirement by developers. So in the earlier days, because of this escrowing of the monies and others, if the requirements of cash flow for a project was say 50 crores, today it would be close to 150 crores because of the escrow mechanism or the lack of sales which take place subsequent to the project time rather than early in the day. So from all points of view, yes, there has been a paradigm change in the real estate, some of it even for the better because of the type that we are looking at. But change is manifested in the minds of the consumer for wanting better products. Commercial will take a little time. Retail has had the worst setback in terms of the things, especially in terms of hospitality, restaurants, hotels, aviation, and other sectors have seen a worse situation than all. They certainly need an uplift in the next couple of months in order them to be able to survive the situation and bring back employment in that sector, which is very critical. So all in all, my gut feel is that the economy will be back in normal in the fiscal year 21-22. We would still see a negativism. Hopefully, it will not be -10, but should be close to -4 or 5 by the end of the year, because I do believe that the pickup which has taken place in the economy is sustainable and will continue to do. And if the vaccine comes, of course, the next quarter will be fantastic, and we should not have to worry about it at all. So I'm really open to question answers. And this is my initial view in terms of what I feel is the situation in the real estate market, very positive in the long run.
I am sorry, we had to wait for our backstage to get us back in, and I think our connections were giving a little bit of a problem. But thank you so much, sir. I kept on taking notes when you were speaking. There was so much that was packed inside that. You mentioned that the positive light is sustainable. We do have some audience questions that are going in. In fact, one of the people picked up one of your earlier points itself, saying that real estate has many industries that are dependent on it, the 269 allied industries that you spoke of. And the question that I can see from here right now is that is it a direct proportionate? So will these industries will continue to be directly dependent, and hence the picture that you have drawn that by 2021 it should get better, it means a larger sector is getting into a more positive outlook for 2021?
Yes, the answer is yes, because there is a direct linkage to construction to all these industries. However, not directly proportional. Because, for example, let's take the paint industry. You use paint for new buildings, but you also use paint for older buildings. If you are taking steel is used for buildings, but it's also used for roads and bridges and other sectors of the economy also. If you look at various materials that go into homes and houses, so let's look at tiles, roofing tiles, and other things which are there. They're used for new homes, but they're used for repair of old homes and other things which are there. So redevelopment, rebuilding, repairs, renovations, and paints and other things. So while it is not directly proportionate, but the answer is it is definitely linked. So a large facet of it would be covered by the real estate industry. And those industries which were connected with it will not be able to boom without real estate coming back. But whether they will be able to survive or not, my view is survival is one thing and doing well is another thing. So it is my belief that those industries have to do well, will have to have real estate coming back. So, for example, let's take my own companies. We have almost 4,500 workmen on the ground. When the pandemic took place, we were left with less than 1,200 workers, and those also were scared to come back to work. So the situation was extremely big. Now we have, in the last 60 days or 75 days, every day we have 30, 40, 50 workers coming back. Unfortunately, they are not necessarily the same workers. So we have people who are coming. So we are not getting equally skilled workers, but we have the workmen coming back to work. So all this is going to require rectification and putting back into the system, whether it is our factory or the connected industry, which you said, which I said is 269 or so.
Got it. I got it. So, do you want to figure out the next question from our audiences?
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Hiranandani, there's another question from Mr. Gautam Banerjee from Greater Noida. Now, his question is about the airport coming up in Greater Noida. Will that boost the realty sector there? Because big projects, infrastructure projects, actually boost the reality sector around that. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Noida is having a very lucky position now. For the Sincil, it's not only about the airport. The UP government has been working in a very proactive manner in order to bring industry, and including data centers and others. My own company, Yota, is setting up a large data center park, the next one in Greater Noida, in Noida. So that's also a possibility. Plus, if you see the announcement yesterday or day before in the news and papers, there have been at least 7 different new industries which are coming up in Noida and other areas of UP. So that also is going to be a positive demand position. So while the airport will become critical over a period of time, it is my belief that the multiple industries that are being now supported by the government and the speed at which they are taking it up is very proactive. And that is really going to help Noida and UP in general and Noida in particular. So yes, the development is definitely proactive, and I consider that region a good area to be in the next couple of years.
Great, sir.
I'm going to
Great.
go on the next question. This is from Aarti Chopra in Mumbai. Now, Aarti over here, she's clearly a marketer. She's asking us she's asking your advice on whether you advise real estate developers right now to focus more on brand building, because she's pointed out that real estate has more been a project-driven marketing that we usually see in areas. But in times of boosting consumer confidence, do you expect or do you advise fellow marketers and developers to now invest in brand building and do corporate branding than just project branding?
What has worked in the world? Both branding and also project branding. So if you take companies, let's take a company like Godrej. Godrej has built a brand, a strong brand, and now into real estate. So what do? They also project the brand Godrej, and they also project the projects that come up on the whole thing. So it's not one or the other, it's one and the other. So you have to understand it, and you have to actually come to an understanding whether how much proportion of your total spend will you put on brand building and how much of it will you do for project driven ideas. So it's a judgment call that we all have to make. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that brand is not about brand building. It's about trust. So the word is not brand building. People misunderstand the word brand building. Brand building is nothing else except building trust. So if you go to Tata's, you know it's about trust. If you go to Hiranandani, it's about trust. It's not about brand. People misunderstand a brand with with the product. Product is about the product, and the brand is about trust. So when you have trust in somebody, it doesn't matter which field of activity, whether it's real estate or it is any other product that you buy, it's about your faith in that product. So when you have faith in a product, which is what the corporate entities do, is about building trust, which is a very, very thing. And I feel sorry for the people who are just brand builders, because that is projecting something which they are not. What you need to do is build trust and then project the trust that you have built. That is important, rather than spending money on brand building, which is about projecting something you may not be. So if you build your trust with the people and then project that trust, that is extremely positive. Project profiling is a cup of tea which I guess every marketeer knows and understands.
Yeah.
And our friend, I'm sure, will understand it better than me.
एबीपी न्यूज आपको रखे आगे।
My expectation is that the Indian market recovery would be faster than many other countries, which does not mean that it will be fast recovery. Relatively speaking, that India would do better. And part of the reason also is that we are behind, we're not a saturated market. And the other reason is that India still has a lot of fundamental strengths which other countries don't have. I would say on top of the number one would be talent, and talent with the cost arbitrage, where our cost of talent is still lower, and more importantly, talent is available. In most other countries, talent is a challenge, and that too skilled manpower in many areas, and that's going to really help our economy, and in particular help our office market, and I would also say industrial. So there is certainly few clear trends which is happening, that the Indian economy will start recovering. It will not be a quick recovery, but at least it will start. It has already started picking up. What we see, because in our business, which is a services business, touches every part of real estate, so we get a very good view of when what is happening on the ground. And since last month especially, we have started seeing the benefits of lockdown being lifted, where economic activity is picking slowly back, and we are seeing activity in every part of real estate, be it affordable housing, office leasing, logistics, even manufacturing side. Bit in retail. Retail was the most impacted part of real estate, but we are seeing that slowly coming back. The footfalls in malls have coming to 60, depending on where you are, 60 to 70% of what it was pre-COVID. Sales are coming to about half of that, but growing. So we have certainly many reasons to be optimistic. The other part, of course, is, which everybody's spoken about, I'm sure, in the past, is digitization, technology, which will lead to innovation. We are seeing artificial intelligence being applied even in facilities management, to new marketing tools, to even virtual reality. People are conducting site visits virtually. So lots going to happen, and technology actually will be a differentiator. India again has a benefit because, as you know, we are the global kind of technology hub of the world now. A lot of the application, software development, whatever you see globally, has been developed in India, and this will also benefit our own country instead of just being an offshoring center. A lot of those tech tools will help our industry. There's lots happening in prop tech space. A lot of young people, especially I've seen post COVID-19, there has been acceleration in number of young people trying to develop new prop tech ideas and applications, and they will be implemented more than it was, and adopted more than they have been adopted before. So technology adoption will improve significantly, and a lot of our young people will lead this, and it will benefit our industry. And it will also, benefit how we service our clients and how we expand our market. We are, as safety and wellness, again, an area which will be a focus, which will employ a lot of people going forward. New skill sets will come in. New, I would say, careers will be made on only safety and wellness, which will be great. Will employ a lot of people, as safety and wellness was always important. Now it will be a must. So it won't be something to have, but something which would be mandatory to do, which will create, I feel, a lot of jobs and will also make workplaces safe and secure, and encourage more people to really then feel comfortable working and coming out to work. Many other areas, I'll try to be as brief as possible, is on some of the new things we have seen, which is happening in India, which hadn't happened before. Again, there are investments happening. You would have read in the press, people like Brookfield and Blackstones of this world are spending billions of dollars, primarily in income-producing assets, which really means large office spaces which are, yielding rent. And the reason for that is the occupiers of these office spaces are multinational companies, so that gives comfort to international investors. Second, the yields are higher than most of the other markets globally, and third is the development risk is not there. And another reason, of course, what was not happening before in India, which is now we are reaching that stage, that our debt levels, the cost of the interest rates have come down. Earlier, I always used to say that, look, people invest, international funds invest in countries where they can also borrow locally in a lower, at a cheaper interest rates. And India interest rates are very high, so they have also come down. So all this has led all these investments coming in. And last and most important, the whole REIT structure is also providing exit opportunities for investors. And anybody, any investor, be a sovereign fund, large private equity funds, international multilateral funds, when they invest, like anybody else, the first thing they think is that if they're investing in a country or in a sector, what is the exit? The REIT provides that exit now, which wasn't there before, and that will encourage more investment to come in.
एबीपी न्यूज आपको रखे आगे।
How many of you have taken out a spend from another media and put it in digital in the last 6 months? How many of you? Tata and Orient. Oh, all of you, except for Lalitha. Okay, fair enough. The majority have done that. Okay, now, where all did print get a hit? Hands up for print. If anybody removed from print and put it in digital, I mean.
I think Noor, in digital, we've been spending a lot on digital. In fact, nobody would say that they've not been investing on digital from the month of April. Everybody is doing only digital. So
that's the problem. So that's where the mix changes. See, now 2 of them have already said that they have slotted print. 2 or 3 of them, because I can see Alok is smiling. Did you also take it out from print and put it in digital?
No, I took it out from television. So in a way, it was the more fleshy monster to cut.
I don't want to say anything on television right now. But did anybody else take it out from television? Because everybody seems to say television also grew. Lekin aap log ka television spend was in any case a certain degree, right? So now how much did you have to? Did anybody cut from television by any chance, apart from Alok?
No, real estate में television होता नहीं है TV से.
इतना नहीं होता है, सही बात है.
That I can also agree, and because projects are very localized and confined to
a market. Correct. I know.
And television is national.
How many of you missed out of home? How many of you missed that those 2-3 months of total lockdown came out of home? वैसे तो सभी बंद पड़ा था, but did anybody feel that out of home is going to get a hit? Did anybody feel a little negative about out of home? No, nobody felt negative about it.
No, initially we did, because we were not sure what will happen. We thought OH will be dead. Initially we thought OH will be dead, but once the lockdown, unlock 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 happened, and The traffic was back to normal on the streets. So it's there.
Viral, so you
OOH
were
is
saying
back now.
something. I thought you were making a comment.
No, what I was just going to say is that at the end of the day, to me, the $1 million question is a little different. Look, we had a certain rhythm to our life, whether it's business, work, school, whatever, right? And that pendulum was forced to one side by COVID.
Yes.
And now that's being released, right? And the question is, how far to the other extreme will it swing, and at what level will it set back in the rhythm? And to me, that's the change, because there are lots of changes that are going to happen. Yeah, the question is, are we able to predict which will stick and which will not stick? So Siddharth mentioned, outdoor is back, because obviously there were no people on the street. It did make sense putting up outdoor. Now the traffic jams are back, and therefore it makes sense to put outdoor back. But the question is, for example, how much of the change towards digital will stick? How much will consumers be willing to do a lot more online than the 5-6 visits that they actually made to the physical site before they, made a decision? So, for example, we've actually done a completely virtual launch for a new project. So we launched Happiness Palghar, which was 100% digital. There was no site to visit, right? It was tough. It's extremely tough. And it was the first time that anybody had a completely developed platform. So it's happened in the past, but either brands have leveraged aggregator platforms or aggregator tools. This time we developed it from scratch. It was tough. It was extremely tough. The consumer behavior was very different from what we've ever seen. But I think at the end of the day, the experience, it gave us confidence, because we did sell something like 300 units in a little over 4 weeks. Now, the question to us is, do we sustain that investment and hard work in digital? Because once the physical sites open, will they be willing to do that? And that's where I kind of agree with Lalit that maybe not completely. Yes, they would still enjoy the benefits of seeing and getting information they do. But, they would still want to come to the site. They would still want to experience. So to us, the $1 million question is, which are the changes do we acknowledge and adapt for the medium to long term, and which are the ones we believe will go back to normal, and therefore let's not invest too much effort and time in it. And that's something that we have to wait and watch.
From what these lovely gentlemen are saying is that the pendulum is coming back, and it's a little bit of a back to normal way of looking at life right now. You mentioned the digital launch, we were told about it as well. But apart from that, it would appear that more and more people are still thinking about how they were doing it, and a little bit continuing with that right now in real estate. So I'm guessing it's your point that it's coming in the center, but let's see what happens after that. So the jury seems to be a little bit out there on how exactly your consumer is going to be engaged in the way forward. All right, gentlemen, we have pretty much just a lot of things that we had said we will, but I still want to get a sense of predictions. Now, this little set has, I think, created the perfect segue for it. I wanted all of you to make predictions for 2021, because this sector is really difficult, right? Some are calling it a watershed year, some are calling it reinvention, vagara. So from an evolution in 2021 point of view, how do you see the role of the CMO change, especially given as partner to your chief exec? So who wants to take it first? Mohit sir, can I make you take it first? You've been quiet for a while.
Sure.
Then I'll come to Mr. Parsuramka. So Mohit sir,
See, the role of marketing that way, Noor, has been always strategic. It will become more strategic in the days to come. Because what we are looking at in future, some of the things there is a rule book to go for it. Some of them needs to be invented from scratch. And marketers that ways have been always, treading that careful path about going with tradition, also experimenting about it. So currently, marketing guys are also growth officers for a lot of companies. They're also chief information for a lot of companies, because they're the guys who are getting with what's happening across. When we say in commercial real estate, data center will be a big thing. Owners will be on marketing to tell them what will work for data center, what will not. How to launch a new product. It's not been existing in India, but have been existing elsewhere on other shows. So people will look at marketing also for that kind of information. A lot of, we all started talking about introspection. In fact, Viral talked about it. So did Lalit. When you look at introspection, there's a lot of also internal communication that happens, because it was the first time we went back to promoters, went back to the board, went back to employees to gauge where exactly the tide will turn. Marketing again played a huge role in looking at that kind of engagement internally also. Engagement with partners, engagement with stakeholders. It's going to be much, much more. I mean, people are looking at what will come out of the company officially versus what the grapevine says and what Twitter says. Marketing will also have to therefore look at, if not controlling that information, but at least steering it in the right path. A lot of, because now with the pandemic setting in, people are not as extroverted they used to be earlier. They are very choosy with what they will communicate to the world outside. Marketing will play a huge role in also, steering it to the right directions. People talked about the relevance of digital here. I mean, digital is something which, to me, growth organically, and it just needs a trigger to explode. And that is what happened 6 months back. I mean, none of us would thought that this kind of a summit will ever be possible with 8 people on their video cameras. It's something that we always used to be on a dais and exchanging views. But it just happened all of a sudden after 20th of March. I mean, that is how the role of marketing also will evolve. So people are looking at, the companies are right now looking at marketing guys to be thought leaders, to be the guys who will be helping in the transformation with both information and also the skill set to dig the heels in and let them, stride forward. And therefore, if the role was strategic in past, it will be much more strategic in the days to come. And there will be multiple hats that we all need to don in the days to come. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry, sorry. Mr. Sood, I wanted Mr. Sood, if you want to come in right now and weigh in on what Mr. Mishra said. Or give me your predictions, actually, that's better.
Well, as an industry, I think 2021 will be very interesting, because pandemic has taught India at least one thing: the importance of owning a home or an office, which I believe you would agree, the co-living and co-working, all those models are dying now, and people have realized that you have to have your own home, that social security thing that Mr. Hirandani was talking about. So we being in the affordable sector, so we are very bullish, we are very hopeful that next year we are going to see a lot of growth, and other players who are in affordable segment, at least they are going to see tremendous growth in the next year. That's my prediction. And so being a marketer, the role becomes more important and more relevant, that we reach out to all those people, we launch new projects, and we are very bullish on this thing. The next year is going to be very, very good in terms of growth. Yeah.
Let me ask you like this: Are you going to increase your marketing spend in the next year by any chance? And don't base it on this year; base it on 2019.
Well, we can increase depending on the requirement, because, as you know, real estate is more or less project driven. So if there is a project, we definitely would like to spend more and more. And see, earlier the selling cycle of a project was 3 years, 4 years.
Right.
I think now it has reduced down to 12 months to 18 months. So that's what has happened with us, definitely. So yes, spends have increased. That's there.
Shukriya. Thank you so much, Mr. Sood. So Mr. Parshuranga, you're up.
Yeah, so I have a point here. I just wanted to mention this. What is changing and what I'm experiencing as a change is number of consumers buying versus the number of consumers coming and visiting the project. So the conversion factor has increased in the last 4-5 months, which means more serious buyers than frivolous customers just doing window shopping. And this is only going to increase because more and more consumers are going to buy, because the need is very well felt. And whoever is trying this idea of buying or owning a home, they are serious about it. So which means as a marketeer, I have to be very crisp in my communication. My product has to be really a good product. My offering has to be super class. My experience, the customer experience that I give to my consumers on site whenever he visits, has to be a kick-ass experience. So all these 4 or 5 strong points will make a lot of difference in conversion, because he's coming with sure of mind that he has to buy. And if he's and unlike pre-COVID, he had no fear of visiting any developer, any site, any time, any length of time. But now he's making the choice in his mind to, or maybe limiting it to 2 or 3 brands, or maybe 2 or 3 developers at best, because he's doing strong online research. After that, it will boil down to just 1 or 2 or 3 brands where he will eventually buy into. And hence, it is very important that your communication is reaching to the consumer in the right way that he wants to read it as. Point number one. Point number two, that I have witnessed as a change and which we will continue, is a demand for second home. So projects which were essentially positioned on the second home requirement, be it in Goa, be it in Lonavala, be it in Kasoli, and places like that, we've seen a 200% surge. And whether it's in the uber luxury segment, or whether it's in the aspirational segment, both these segments have witnessed over 100% surge in demand. So what we are going to do is, Veeral was talking about a digital launch, but that was required maybe during the COVID pandemic that was on. But now that post-pandemic that we are slowly getting out of, the second home launches will also witness a surge, because that's where the demand is increasing. People are looking at creating a space for themselves in event of a situation like this, where they could just drive and stay at peace and maintain social distance as well. So properties in Lonavala, Alibag, Goa, even in Dehradun are flying, primarily because of the fact that people are opting for second homes. So as a marketeer, we will see to the requirement of the consumer, and the way we interact and communicate with our consumers. That will be much more crisper and much more sharper, because of the consolidation that will happen. Trusted brands, reputed brands, national players are the ones who would be chosen over local or regional players. And hence, as a trusted developer, responsible developer, it is our requirement to ensure that we communicate with our consumers in as transparent way as possible, with the right kind of product information.
Perfect. Mr. Rosa, do you want to tell me your thoughts on 2021? You have slightly different thoughts from everyone today, but...
So I think, look, all the points made are relevant, valid, but the question I'm asking myself is, how is it different from the pre-COVID? Those are very, very valid requirements. They have always been very valid requirements. Yeah, a great consumer experience is valid before and now. I think there's going to be, to my mind, two changes. One is having made the shift to digital and greater use of technology. I think the question every CMO will have to ask is, how much does one keep investing in that? How far down the road do we go on that? The balance between not falling prey to the new toy syndrome and overdoing it, and at the same time doing just the right amount. And for that, the trick is going to be really understanding what the business needs for growth, based on where the consumer is, how they want to do, how they like their new consumer journey to be. And then decide what's the best way of getting that. And it may not involve technology, but I think that's one big question that we'll have to answer. The second one is actually not new, but I think we'll be held a lot more accountable for, which is being far more ROI and business delivery oriented than ever before. I mean, as it is, I think the one difference, in real estate from the other categories is marketing is a lot more business oriented in real estate than many categories, or most categories. But I think that's going to change even more. If we really want to, and I echo the sentiments expressed here that there is going to be a rebound. There is going to be a demand, but I think we also know maximizing that demand is going to take investment. And therefore, being highly ROI and business result oriented is going to become a big demand on us.
All right. Thank you so much, Viral sir. The same question I asked to Siddharth earlier. In comparison to 2019, how will your marketing spend change in 2021? As in terms of percentage growth, decline, same?
I'd like to believe it will grow. But that's basis the plans we have on the plate today. If those plans fructify, it will grow.
Caveat wise growth. Amit sir, will your also grow the advertising spend from 2019 to 2021? Will there be growth? आप फिर से mute हो गए. You're mute again, sir. Amit sir, you're mute again.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
me.
We are quite hopeful that we will be increasing our budgets and spends across all the relevant media. Definitely, the proportions will change now. Definitely, digital contribution. I mean, portion of spend going into digital will be much higher as compared to what it was. Customer experience in terms of online tools that we are creating, whether it's a drone shoot or whether it's a 3D walkthrough that we've created, and many other. So those will be areas where we will be investing heavily as well.
I got it. Mohit sir, आपको grow होने वाला advertising spend by any chance? आप mute हैं. You're also mute. I have become very inspiring clearly.
In fact, if you look at it in the 19-20 years, there's growth. If you look at 2021, there will definitely be growth in terms of marketing spends. In fact, to start with, spends come later. The marketing activities will be growing at a much faster pace. Engagement with the current customers will have to grow, and then we also look at now, which we've not been doing for the last 6 months, is demand generation, because the last 6 months were all about consumer connect and going. So that all that will grow.
So now, Alok sir, you also need to answer that question, but you need to give me your predictions as well, and then I'll come back to Mr. Makhijani. So, Mr. Agarwal, your predictions, and then tell me about your ad spend movement.
Sure. I think if we don't have a second wave and a third wave, by all means, for everybody, 21-22 should be better than 19 in terms of spends. I really see that some of the behaviors are likely to be permanent. We will keep doing video calls. Consumers will keep researching online. So the way the purchase decision journey has evolved, at least it will be a bit sticky. It's going to be better than 19. So I think we will keep investing in online tools to make tile shopping easier. I see definitely that happening. Also, the product segments will change. So, warehouses are here to stay. Data centers will boom. And that's where the new market is going to be. Of course, residential, commercial spaces will have the nuances. Affordable housing is going to rock. And I think that's the beauty of being a building material supplier. You sort of have a bird's eye view, or you have a portfolio, and you can play much better. And you have far more elbow room than, if I may say, some of the builders. What I also see happening is brands will be preferred versus unbranded players. We see that happening quite a lot. There is clearly a preference for a branded player who has been around, whose factory you know, and whose priority is to service the customer, and not, so to say, the latest export order you might be getting.
Got it. I got it. So, aapka marketing spend increasing in comparison to 2019?
Yes, absolutely. I'm hoping to.
Mr. Makhijani, almost getting the last word, sir. What are your thoughts on the year ahead?
I think, Noor, I agree with all the gents here. I think, there looks like a promising future ahead. And then there are reasons why I believe so is that last few years, which is just gone by, there's been a financial industry, there's been a pressure. There are a lot of real estate companies, they were under pressure because they had to service their costly and expensive debt. So I think the consolidation will happen. When the consolidation will happen, there'll be good products that will come in, and the customers, we all have heard, stay at home. Wo home hai kidhar? Right? All those fence sitters, then they will take the decision. Interest rates are pretty low. They're very, very attractive. So I think all of us should see good business, and if the good business happens, naturally the spends have to go up. So I see, good times ahead. I see interesting times ahead. I do agree with some, gents here that there will be, innovation on the product side. People may not want to look at large, lavish apartments, but certainly for smart space solutions, they would want to have, possibility of, if pandemic hits again, such times come again, what is that your development or your project is offering. So I think spends will go up, most certainly will go up. And from our side also, I think we will come out with some marketing solutions. We will tie with some vendors And yes, we should be able to offer some better customer experience to the customers.
Awesome, that's awesome. You know, if media agencies call you or creative agencies call you, आप लोग मुझे बताइएगा, so that I can tell them that this is where they first heard that आप सबके spends increase होने वाला in 2021. Very positive note for all our audiences. I'm actually grateful for all of your comments and awesome insights. I can almost imagine my journalists going crazy with the stories that they will be writing. So I have to thank each and every one for your time.